Let's take a look at the journey so far. We started the video series just north of Stoke-on-Trent, so we've come up here, which is the Trent and Mersey, which is shown in magenta, and we turned left at Middlewich along the branch canal of the Shropshire Union as far as Barbridge Junction, and then we came down the main line of the Shropshire Union as far as Hurlston, which was only about 1.25 miles, to pick up the Llangollen canal, which is shown here in red. So we've gone through Wrenbury, we've gone past Whitchurch, and this area here is where we go in and out of Wales in quite a short distance. The white line is the national boundary, so as you can see we go into Wales and then out of Wales in just a few miles. So we've gone into Ellesmere, we're past Ellesmere, and the last episode we were at Frankton Junction, which is at the top of the Montgomery Canal, where that meets the Llangollen. So in this episode we're going to leave Frankton Junction and make our way towards Llangollen, and we'll pass over Chirk Aqueduct, and at the end of which we do enter Wales fully there. And then we wind our way up towards Pont Cyswlly, where we will go over the famous aqueduct and then take a very sharp left-hand turn, which then takes the canal into the Vale of Llangollen, and it basically follows the line of the River Dee all the way up to Llangollen, and that's where we'll stop at the end of this episode. It's Sunday evening, it's the 8th of May, and we're at Llantsilio, a place that's famed for its aqueduct, and we'll be going over that tomorrow. We've had a strange sort of day today. It was very cloudy first thing, quite cold. I got my coat on to start with, and then after dinner the sun came out and it's been quite a pleasant afternoon. It's clouding over a little bit now, and I think the forecast is for more cloud tomorrow and the next few days, but we've decided that we've made good time. We're still about 4 hours ahead of our itinerary, so we're further forward now than we had planned to be. So I think what we're going to do, we'll be in Llangollen tomorrow at the end of the canal by about lunchtime probably, and I think we're going to moor up there for a couple of nights and spend a bit of time in Llangollen, and then we'll turn around obviously and start our way back, all 46 miles back to the Shropshire Union, with a detour down the Montgomery hopefully, but we'll see how we go on that. There is a closure further on down the Llangollen for the 17th of May at Baddeley Locks. There's some maintenance they've got to do, and they've got to close the canal to get at the problem. I think the problem was with the ground paddle and the gates, so the canal is actually going to be closed for a whole day, and guess what, that's the day that we were scheduled to go through there. So we might have another day stop somewhere, or we might spend an extra day on the Montgomery. You know, we'll see how we do it. Highlight of the day tomorrow is going to be the aqueduct, which is about 1 mile and a bit away. We've just had a wander up there about 1 mile, and we didn't reach the aqueduct, so it's probably about 1.5 miles. We did come over the Chirk Aqueduct today, which was quite spectacular, because at the side of you you've got the railway viaduct as well, which is pretty impressive, and then as you come off the aqueduct you're virtually straight into the tunnel. just on a section of the canal which is only one bit boat width, and Sue's gone in front now to make sure it's clear, and she's going to ring me when she gets to the other end, hopefully to tell me it's clear to go. Our two-way radios have decided to pack up, which is rather annoying, because this is where we use them in situations like this. Fortunately there is a phone signal here, but if we haven't got phones, it'll be just go for it and hope for the best. We've not seen too many boats this morning. It's Monday morning and the weekend rush has abated. There are one or two about, a couple of day boats we've just passed, but it's generally quiet, thank goodness. So I'm just waiting for the phone call, and hopefully she'll say it's clear. Just have the call and it's clear, so off we go. Because it's narrow, it creates a current as you're travelling through it, and it actually slows you down quite considerably. It looks to be very little current if you look at the surface of the canal, but it's pulling water down the side of the boat, a bit like going through a bridge hole, and the propellers serving to create a current rather than push your boat forward. It's pulling the water underneath you, and we're virtually at a standstill now, and if I put more revs on it just makes it worse. I found that out previously. Now it's something on the bottom. It's also shallow, which doesn't help with propulsion. There's very little water for the prop to work at. To Llangollen here, and a very high retaining wall. So we're getting there. We're getting there, but slowly. You can see the current is quite strong as it's going past the back of the boat. Hopefully, Sue will be just round this corner, but I don't know. It said 300 metres. We seem to have done about that. But there's a view of the valley, which you tend not to look at because you're watching what you're doing with the boat. That's the Vale of Llangollen. It's quite an interesting section, this is. We're not at the end of it yet by the look of it. No sign of Sue. We're going under the road now. Maybe it's wider after the road bridge. We've come about 1.5 miles from the end of the navigable canal at Llangollen to see where all the water comes from, and it's here Horseshoe Falls. And we'll walk down and have a look at the valve house. These grills prevent leaves and debris from going into the valve house, and the air that you can see in the bubbles are caused by fans that blow against the grills to blow any debris into the outfall that goes into the river. It's just quite ingenious. So that's the water that's going into the valve house, which is just there. And it flows underneath the valve house through a series of valves, and there's also a meter that measures the flow before it enters the feeder to the canal, which we'll have a look at as we pass. So that's it from the other side of the sluice. Quite a popular place for people to visit, and the path along there goes to Llantisilio church, but we're not going to take that because we've walked enough. And that's the natural river coming down, and that's the valve house. And then there's an interpretation board which explains a little bit about it. So that's the diagram of the valve house, showing the underground pipe run and valves and metering. And it says on this board that it runs at 12 million gallons a day, which runs into the canal and goes all the way down to Helston Reservoir, right at the end of the canal, 46 miles away, for drinking water supply to South Cheshire. And just as a further interest, there's a little bit about the engineer of the Ellesmere Canal, who lived at Butley Hall near Ripley, William Jessup. Not forgetting the contribution that Thomas Telford made as well. And this is the downstream side of the valve house, and that water there is coming through and into the canal and down the feeder. This isn't navigable by boats, it's purely a feeder for the canal and obviously the reservoir at Hurleston. Well, it's a pleasant walk. We're in between the feeder and the river. And a little further along the path from the feeder is the Cambridge Hotel. And we've just had a drink, and that's the Chain Bridge, which was constructed originally in 1817, but not to that design. It has been replaced, but it says on the information panel that the original suspension chains have been retained on the new bridge. So that's, and then behind it, behind the trees, is Berwyn Station on the Llangollen Railway, and the 6-arch viaduct takes the railway. You can see the hotel is right up against the feeder canal. and then the other side it's right up against the river. So we're going to go now back to the boat and put our feet up, because we've had quite a long walk and there's still a mile and a half to go.